Hey, welcome back to my channel. I'm currently a grad student working towards becoming a psychotherapist, and I wanted to create this mini series called Mixed Feelings, where I explore my identity as being a mixed Asian American. So a little bit of background about me and my racial identity. So my dad is a second generation immigrant from Eastern Europe. So his parents were both in different parts of Eastern Europe, and he grew up in the East Coast. And my mom, she's Japanese, grew up in Japan, born there, lived there as a young adult, and she moved to the US once she married my dad. So for a period of time, I actually lived in Japan as well. And when I lived there, I identified myself as hafu. And hafu in Japanese means half. And I think technically you can use this word for other, if you aren't half Japanese and you're like a quarter or any sort of Japanese. But technically that word does mean hafu, or like the American word for half. So I think that's the word that I kind of used when I was trying to explain why I looked the way I was, or I culturally did certain things. That's kind of the term that I used when I was growing up. And I saw my mom also use that word as to kind of explain how I was in certain situations. And I think that word hafu is pretty comparable to the word biracial that we use here in America. And I think those words are both similar because they both, in its name, talk about how much, percentage-wise, how much you are of certain things. Biracial technically means that you are a mix of two different races, and that's so similar with half. You're a mix of two different, one of them being Japanese. And personally, I don't like using the word biracial. I don't identify that much with the word biracial because there's so much emphasis on it being half. I am half X and I am half Y. So in my case, I am half white and I am half Japanese. And personally, I don't think of myself in that way. And I think that's one point I don't like the word biracial. And secondly, there's a big microaggression with mixed race people that you aren't enough of one race. And so I think it just kind of contributes to that, in my opinion. I'm not going to be ever Asian enough because I am only half, or I'm not white enough because I'm only half. And so I just personally, for those two reasons, don't like the word biracial to explain my identity. Now that I've had a little bit more experience and just read more about mixed race experience, I think that depending on where I am, what country I'm in, how I'm feeling, I identify as differently. One day I may be feeling like I'm more mixed Asian American, but other times I'm feeling more Asian American, and I think that's totally fine, and that's just an experience that we have as mixed race people, is that in some ways we're able to occupy certain areas, but also we really live in the outskirts of different identities. No matter where, if I'm with my Asian American friends, I'm kind of belong with there, but I'm also on the outskirts because I do have different lived experiences with them. And if I'm with my American white friends, I do have similarities with them, but I'm also in the outskirts. And I feel that's kind of what I've read upon, is that as mixed race people, our identities are formed in the outskirts of these communities that we belong in. And yeah, that's just how it is. And so personally, I like the word mixed race to kind of categorize myself, I guess, if you had to. I think in the literature or in academia, the word I see more frequently to describe mixed race people are multicultural or multiracial. And I think there are critiques for why people don't like the word mixed race to describe themselves, because it can be a little objectifying because people aren't mixed. That's kind of the terminology used for objects. And again, lots of microaggressions with mixed race people being objectified. But personally, I like that word. For me, multiracial and multicultural are just too formal in a way for me. So I like just saying I'm mixed. Yeah, and I just wanted to create this video because I hadn't really heard of people critique biracial. Again, this is like all just my own personal opinion. I think there's a lot of people that actually identify with that word that fits that's exactly how they feel, and that's their identity, and that's, you know, we're all different, but this is just my take on that word. Thanks for watching this video. I hope to see you in my next episode for this mini series where I just keep talking about things like this. Bye.
Falling to pieces in my room.